So here we are today. We are with Chef Michael Beltran of Ariat. We are very, very honored to have you with us.
That's nice.
One of the most popular restaurants in Coconut Grove.
Yeah.
But you also have other restaurants as well.
Yeah, in the Grove we have Chugs, which is a pretty amazing diner, like modern style diner. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner, breakfast all day, pancakes at midnight, whatever you want.
I love pancakes at midnight.
Me too, me too. Ariat is our flagship, fine dining, amazing. Our seafood restaurant, next door is Nave. And then we have a couple other things coming up, very exciting things for the Grove as well.
Oh, very good, very good. Well, we're honored to have you with us today. We put a challenge to you and we said, come up with a recipe that can feed a family of 4 for under $20, and you came up with?
So one of my favorite things to eat growing up was harina, which is basically almost like the Cuban version of grits, I would say, and fricassee de pollo, which is just chicken fricassee. And together, they're really one of my favorite things to eat because they're very like heartwarming, soulful things, and they remind me of my grandparents a lot. And they're very like versatile. You could use them both with different stuff. So I think it's good to know both dishes because you can apply, harina to a lot of things, and you can apply at least the fricassee version to a lot of different proteins. So it's good to know both.
Great,
yeah.
Great. So let's go ahead and get started. Our families have their meal kits out. They're ready to cook. They're hungry.
Amazing. Me too. Me too.
So we'll go ahead and let you lead us through the first step.
Okay, great. So I think the most important thing, first and foremost, is to make sure that you have your chicken thighs, right? And one thing I like to do first is make sure you bring them out to room temp and that you season them really well. These chicken thighs are bone in, skin on. That's very important because for me, the bone adds a lot of flavor to the actual sauce, and the skin is delicious. So you never want to not have deliciousness in your life. So, season them really well, a good amount of salt. I would, some gloves here. So.
And you like to pat it dry too. I mean, the chicken.
Absolutely.
Yes. So just a little helpful hint out there with your chicken. Take a paper towel to it. Make sure it's dry. It'll make it crisp up a lot better when it's in the pan.
And that's pretty much for anything too. If you're cooking whole chickens also, and you just want to throw them in the oven to roast, the drier the better. And actually, when you add salt to it, it's going to dry it out a little bit too. So to leave it in the actual fridge with already being salted is a good move before you actually throw it into the oven. So I recommend putting on some gloves if you got them, just because you got to really get into this chicken and season all the sides of it, because seasoning is incredibly important. So salt and pepper, all of it. Salt first.
Did I see someone had a question? No? If you have a question, you can write it in the chat or put your hand up, and you can ask it as we go. But right now what Chef Mike is doing is he's taking the chicken and he's seasoning all sides of it.
All the sides. Mm-hmm. All the sides. A little bit of pepper.
So where are you from originally?
I'm from Miami, born and raised.
No, that never happens.
That is 100% true. No one ever believes it, but I'm from Miami, born and raised. I was born in Hialeah, raised in Little Havana, and I love my city very much. So,
well, you have a great city to love, for sure.
So now that that's done, clean up any mess if you have one. I would get to the actual casserole that you're going to be cooking the chicken in. So make sure you put that on I would say a low to medium heat. You don't want it to be too hot because the idea here is that you're going to start cooking your chicken thighs while you start doing some other things. So you don't want it to be too hot and you don't want to burn your chicken thighs either. So, get that on there. Like I said, low to medium. There you go. That's good. Okay. You don't need the top for right now. So as that's warming up, we're going to cut some of our veg up. Green pepper. Red pepper is also good if you don't have green. Any pepper, really. Potato and an onion. With these 3 ingredients, you could pretty much do so many things in a kitchen. Anything that's very stew-like, braised-like. I mean, it's almost like the keys to delicious cuisine. And I think it's really good you know, all those things that are good for braising are good for large groups,
Right.
4, 6, 8. You know, whenever my family actually gets me to cook for them, I usually do like, you know, anything that's braised, anything that I could put into a pot and kind of take it to everyone all in like
Right,
a one-stop
and serve
shop.
it all in the
Yeah.
pot. Right, that's nice.
So make sure you
Family
get
style.
all of that.
And I know we've got an overhead shot of Mike cutting up the pepper, and he's not wasting any bit of it.
No,
I
no.
noticed that you cut right around that stem and
Yeah,
make sure
always.
you got all of it.
Yeah, I mean, I think especially peppers, people kind of throw away the butts and the tops, and you know, you can use those, and even kind of the insides of them and the onions as well. Like in every kitchen I've ever been a part of, we definitely make it a point to keep all that stuff, and we'll make a vegetable stock out of it. We'll always use as much as we can of all vegetables. So, you know, I would challenge everyone at home to do the same thing for sure.
Right.
So keep on cutting away.
So we're just slicing and dicing right now. We've got an overhead to show you how we're doing it. How big would you say that dice is?
This is, I would say, a small to medium dice. That's
Okay.
not an exact science, but I would go with small to medium dice. Basically, I think the most important thing to note about cutting of vegetables, especially when you're doing a stew, is that you want to cut them all around the same size. It doesn't need to be like an exact thing, but around that same kind of like half by half. Because what's going to happen is that once you throw them in the pot to cook, if they're different sizes, they're going to cook unevenly,
Differently, yeah.
right? And you don't want that. That's going to make your day a lot more difficult.
Right.
So we're going to cut this sucker up.
So I know Adriana loves to have peppers as a snack, a healthy snack. She'll just go ahead and cut one up after school, and she dips it in ranch dressing. Right, Adriana? Can you hear me? Yep, she's giving me the thumbs up. That's what she loves to do.
Anything with ranch, I'm really a fan of. Like, ranch is one of the most important things in the world, I believe.
It's great. And you know, anything we can do to encourage these families to eat healthy and to
100%.
cook from scratch. You know, so oftentimes I think we're intimidated about cooking. We're afraid it's going to take too long. It's going to be too hard.
Yeah.
There's a million excuses. But the point of this class and having Chef Mike and all the other chefs that we've had on is that we've been able to teach cooking and make it easy. And you know, and oftentimes there's more left over. How many people have had leftovers the next day? I mean, there's a plenty. See, I see some hands raised up. Yep. And so you actually are not only creating a dinner for under $20, but oftentimes you get a bonus lunch out of it.
100%. And that's kind of what I mentioned was both of these things are good, and if there are leftovers, this is great the next day. It's like harina with like sunny side up eggs or whatever in the
Right.
morning. It's a treat. That's actually a dish on one of our menus is just harina with eggs.
With eggs.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
one of my mom's favorite things. More to your point, the idea of like cooking, you know, watching and cooking with my grandparents when I was younger is really what got me wanting to be a chef to begin with. Fortunately enough, they are incredible cooks, so I was very lucky to learn from some great chefs, you know.
Right.
But that really taught me the love of like cooking for family, cooking
Right.
for community, and I think the more we talk about those things and we do those things, I think the more empowered you feel to, you know, I mean, when you can cook, it's an amazing feeling.
Right.
It really is. It's a pretty special thing.
Right. Yes, and we have a lot of families out there with children who are in the kitchen cooking with their moms, their
Love that.
dads, their grandparents. So, you know, many of them have learned their own recipes. I know that they've got some out there too that they like.
Love that.
And then to learn these special recipes and then repeat them. I know I have been talking to one of the families, Ruth's family, and her daughter, and her name, Ruth, I can't remember your daughter's name, but she keeps all the recipes in the cupboard, and she pulls out recipes from time to time and remakes these. So
That's
they
amazing.
all have the recipes. They can learn from you tonight, and then they can recreate this meal in another week or two if they wish.
I think that's also one of the beauties of food itself is like some of the recipes that we do even at our restaurants are recipes that I have taken from my grandparents and just kind of like adapted to be something more my style.
Right.
So I mean, food is something that can be passed on from one family to the next and the next generation to the next. And it's really a beautiful thing because it also teaches you a lot about the history of your background.
Yes, yes.
And, me being from a Cuban family and me being Cuban American, it's taught me a lot about where I'm from, how they cook there, a lot about the culture, because being born and raised in Miami, this is the most of Cuba that I know.
Right.
So I've learned a lot about my background, my culture, my people through our food.
So I'm from Wisconsin. I know a lot about cheese and brats.
Well, that's good. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that.
It's German food.
Yeah, that's a beautiful thing also.
But it is wonderful being in Miami and being exposed to all these wonderful Latin American recipes.
Yeah, it's definitely something pretty special. I think also one of the best parts of Miami is that you just have it's just a melting pot of culture and so many different types of food and so many things that, I mean, I lived in Virginia for 5 years and it wasn't a lot of that. It wasn't a lot of Cuban food or Mexican food or any of those things. So, but there I learned how to make biscuits and gravy, and I learned what like true Southern barbecue was because I had never seen that before. So,
You do learn a lot about where you live, food, and that's part of it. You experience culture through food.
It's one of my favorite things about the kitchen, other than being able to cook for people you care about. Is the learning aspect. What you learn about cuisine, about people, about backgrounds. It's really amazing. So, anyways, just so, because we're just talking here, we're about doing the same kind of dice with this onion. Obviously, I'm not going to ask people to do this like really chefy dice on it, but however you feel comfortable cutting that onion, cut it.
So we're cutting the whole onion, everybody. Oh, look, we already have a picture in the far left of the onion and the pepper all cut.
Love that.
Very good. Good job. Yes, please show us your pictures as you go. So we've got the whole onion we're dicing, and if you recall, Chef Mike said make sure you try to get it about the same size as the pepper that you cut.
Yeah, that picture up there was pretty perfect, actually.
Yeah, that's our 14-year-old.
You need a job? No?
14-year-old star chef there.
If you need a job, we're always hiring.
She's happy.
Okay, so now we got this cut.
Okay.
Put that in there.
And I can feel the heat on
That's
the
good.
stove, so I know that your pot's coming to temp.
Right.
So you all should also, while you're dicing, have, as Chef Mike said, a medium to low to medium heat in your pot, and it should be getting nice and warm right about now.
Okay, so I'm a big proponent as clean as you go, right? Kitchens are tiny, so make sure that you clean up after yourself. So the next thing that we're going to do is that pot continues to get nice and warm, and remember the pot is supposed to be low to medium heat, so just keep that in the back of your mind. We're going to peel this potato.
Now, if you don't, does everybody have a potato peeler or a vegetable peeler at home? I think everybody
There you
does.
go.
Yeah, we've got some. If worst case scenario, they don't have a vegetable peeler.
Just make sure that you clean that potato really well. If
Okay.
you don't have a peeler at home, it's totally fine. Just make sure you take the time to scrub that potato real well, clean it under some cold water, and you should be just fine.
Okay, great.
So,
So we have, what's this, a russet potato?
yeah,
Okay. Could they have used a red potato? Or?
you can, absolutely.
Okay.
This is what I grew up with, but also in this recipe too, my grandfathers put yuca or boniato or whatever. I mean, the beauty of kind of stuff like this is that you could do it to your taste. So if you wanted to do more of a tropical tuber like that, you can too. It's this is kind of when food and classic recipes take an identity of the actual chef,
Right,
Right. And I think it's really cool if at home you guys ever do this thing again and you wanted to, there's no one telling you that you can't.
Right.
Which is great.
Go ahead, substitute.
Yeah. So I usually cut these a little bit larger. Reason being is that they're going to cook pretty fast. So, take your potato, cut it in half.
Use the flat side.
Always use the flat side, more control, right? But the potato, it's this very interesting thing that it does for your actual sauce is there's two things. Obviously, potatoes are delicious, right? Everyone loves to eat potatoes. But secondly, the starchiness of the potato is going to feed into the actual sauce. And it's going to create this almost a consistency that you want and you need. So, you know, potatoes, again, it's another like very simple and humble item that it does so much for sauce work when you use it the right way.
And so when you were recommending, you know, substituting different vegetables, we talked about red potatoes, but you mentioned yuca. You're mentioning starchy type of vegetables.
Yeah, I mean, you can use stuff that's less starchy for sure. You're just going to have to cook that sauce down some more.
A little bit more.
Yeah.
Okay. So right now you're doing something that I think everybody needs to know. You've got your potato peeled and cut, and you're putting it in water.
Absolutely.
Why are you doing that?
Because if you leave it out of the water, it's going to turn black, and then everyone's like, what's happening? And what's happening is that the potato itself is just starting to become like bruised and ugly. It doesn't mean that it's bad necessarily. It just means that
it doesn't look as nice.
Doesn't look as appetizing for sure.
Right.
So I think now we've put ourselves in position for the next move, which is one of the most important ones, which is the, oh, actually, before we do that, let's shave our garlic before we do that so we don't have to do it later. Garlic, again, is, I think with these ingredients, is one of the most important things. Very readily available, very easy to use. I like to buy the whole kind of clove and peel them myself because it's just fresher and they last longer. And you know, everyone always buys like the pre-peeled ones.
Right.
And, you know, in a week later, the whole jar is bad and you don't want it.
Well, and there's no real expense in garlic.
Right.
But
it's so pivotal. You know, garlic, onions, potatoes, they're just incredibly important to the like overall thing you're trying to get accomplished.
It's a great flavor.
So that's done. So now we're off to cooking some chicken.
Got some oil here for you.
Perfect. So, actually, we use that, right? Yeah. So, set yourself up with a pan for after this chicken is cooked. Make sure you're nice and hot. Don't touch it. Don't touch it. Just feel it. Make sure that feel the warmth there. Coat the whole bottom with some oil. Okay. And now you're going to bring up the heat just a touch.
So we're going more towards a medium-high heat, would you say? Okay.
Yeah, because now you're watching. Now you get to pay attention, which is the most important thing, is paying attention. Now, you see the fact that we let it warm up for the last, I don't know, 10 minutes or so? But it was never on high heat, never stressed out. That means the pan was ready to go, and that means that more often than not, your product's not going to stick inside of the pan.
Right.
And then, you know, you bring up that heat a good amount. The most, like another very important thing is that if you're using a small casserole dish like this, you don't want to crowd the pan too much. Crowding the pan is going to cause it to basically not get good color, and you're not going to be able to build that foundation on the bottom of the pan. So just let it ride.
Okay. So you only put 2 in at a time. For the very reason that you said you don't want to crowd the pan.
Right. If this was double the size, I'd put all 4 in there.
Okay.
But we don't want to do that. We're not in a rush right now.
Okay.
So as we're doing that, tomato, you grab your cut veg, your potato, and you make sure that everything is kind of ready to go.
Okay. I can see we've got some, Ruth is still working on the potato. I can see Patty has her vegetables ready to go. I can see that Lucy has her pot. Kenya, how you doing? Oh, you've got your milk. Yep, we'll get to that in just a minute. We're not using that yet. Let's see, I can tell. Chris Snell, wow, you've got some steam going in your kitchen.
I love that. You know how many fire alarms I've started? At home, only at home.
And I'm a little nervous because we can only see her pot. We don't see her.
Right. Maybe somebody took a bathroom break.
Maybe, we don't know. But everybody seems to be doing well, following along. Of course, if there's any questions, use the chat. Alessandra can also unmute you. Right now, it looks like we're doing very well. You're adding another thigh.
Everyone's doing well.
Okay.
So we just add one in there.
We're
it's fine.
happy in the pot.
Yeah.
Great.
So we got some more veggies working. That's great.
Okay.
I think at this point also something that we could do is we could start to warm up our milk for the harina. So in a pot over here on the side, again, you're going to go very low heat, very low. This is, I think, one of the mistakes that a lot of...
Just have to fan it a little bit.
It's okay. I've dealt with way worse. Perfect. This is perfect. Actually, let's go to the front. Or not. Okay, there we go.
Do that one.
Yeah. A lot of young chefs make this mistake a lot, is they think everything needs to be high heat, you know, the flame and so on and so forth, which is not the case. You know, take your time, do it right, you know, love the whole process, which is something I'm a big fan of. Make sure you enjoy the whole process. So the recipe calls for 4 cups of milk. We have this set up with 4 cups already.
Okay. And just a reminder, those that have the carton of milk, yep, I can see Lucy's got hers. You're using the entire container. It's already 4 cups. If you have the half gallon, yes, Patty, the whole thing,
Yeah.
the whole amount goes into your pot, and it is on what, low heat?
Low heat.
Low heat.
Not a half gallon, 4 cups.
Right. If you have a half a gallon, so some have half gallons, some have it.
Right.
This is the way it was. If you have a half a gallon, you're going to have to measure that out for 4 cups.
There you
But
go.
if you have that carton that says Parmalat, just go ahead and pour it all in.
So if you look down at the pot, I flipped over the 2 original ones that we had in there. You're looking for that GBD, which is golden brown and delicious. That to me looks pretty delicious. So just let it keep cooking. You're going to sear it on both sides and just let it take its time.
Great.
So
A question about how long the chicken could cook for people
Sure.
out there. It's a dark meat chicken.
yeah,
So typically, how long does it take?
you know, I hate giving people numbers because then they're like, oh, it should take 20 minutes. But some chicken thighs are bigger than others.
Right.
So it's hard to give them like an exact science.
Okay.
I tell everyone all the time is that once that bone is easily to pull out, you know, from the inside, that means it's done.
Then it's done.
You know, like
Okay.
the protein is going to tell you when it's done.
Okay.
It's a little different than like when you cook, let's say like a short rib or a beef chuck flap or like a round. It's all the same size. You're going to put one thing in there.
Right.
But with chicken thighs, some chicken thighs may be 6 ounces, some may be 8, some may
Yes.
be 5. So it's hard to really call it because some may be done before others. Others may take double the amount
Yeah.
of time.
Right. It all depends on size. A lot of variables.
Correct.
Okay, everybody should have their chicken in the pot. Yep, thumbs up.
Chicken's happening?
Chicken's
Love that.
happening.
Chicken is happening. All right, so I think we got some color here on both sides. Yep.
I have a question. Is this going to chicken?
Not yet. We're not ready for the spices. Right now we're just having oil. And remember, we started by seasoning it with salt and pepper and
Okay.
oil. That's all that's gone into the chicken.
So now that you have, like this is a good example of searing it on both sides. It's got color on both sides. Pull it out. And this one's probably about the same. Pull it out. Then you're going to put your last chicken thigh in there.
Okay. It's really nice. Maudson, can we get a shot? Are you able to see the chicken thighs? There you go. Yes, nice and golden and crispy on both sides, seared on both sides. That's what it should, that's the color you're looking for.
Now, if you were going to cook these chicken thighs and you were just going to eat like pan roasted chicken thighs with like salad, because that's also delicious, you would probably cook those in a saute pan, skin side down. Once they have color, just pop them right in the oven, let them finish in there, you know? And then it would have like real brown, crispy skin. But since this is going to go into a stew, you don't need that like really dark brown.
Got it.
It's always going to change depending on the recipe, right?
Right. Right.
So, careful. There you go.
Looking good. It's smelling great in here.
I think chicken thighs are, you know, everyone goes chicken breasts all the time.
Yeah.
Chicken thighs are the way to go.
They're flavorful.
They're delicious.
Definitely more flavorful. And for our families who are really working on a budget, it's a lot more affordable to do a chicken thigh than it is to do a chicken breast.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. And I think when I cook for my family, because I cook dinner for my grandparents like twice a month. it's hard to cook for them since they're the real chefs in the family.
Yeah.
You know, I cook for them a lot of like chicken thighs, chicken drums, it's some of their favorite stuff to do. I make them this recipe all the time. You know, just without the olives, my grandfather's not a fan. But, you know, it's just really, it really is a delicious product.
Right.
And super underutilized, I think, too.
Right. Now, a question. If you didn't want to do chicken thighs, could you do this recipe with something different?
Yeah, 100%. You can do this with beef, different cuts of beef. You could do this with so many types of proteins.
Okay.
What's going to change is how long you have to cook them for.
Okay.
That's what's going to change. It wouldn't be like, this is probably the quickest protein that you could use for this recipe. But
So if you had a chuck roast, could you use a chuck roast, for instance, in that?
yeah, you would have to cut it down some, and you would probably have to pick up the amount of liquid that you have in the actual like fricassee for the
Okay.
casserole. But it's not, you know, like I said, it all depends on how big the actual
Right.
protein is. All right, so this oil, you're going to want to take some of that out of there. Let me use this thing. This way. Just because it's a lot to start searing, so be careful.
How much oil should you have in the pot so they know?
Well, the thing is also what happens is that the actual chicken thighs, there's a lot of chicken fat in here now too, which is perfect.
Right.
And you want that in your
Right.
life. Before we get into that, just because we have the pan going, we're gonna start with your onions
Okay. Onions are in.
and peppers. And make sure you fill up the whole pot with them, because the same way you didn't want too many chicken thighs in there because it would stop it from browning, you want all the veg in there.
You do.
Because you want them all to veg at the same time.
Okay.
I mean, to all caramelize at
Right.
the same time.
You don't want to take them in stages.
Right. So, ooh, sorry. All right. So what's going to happen now is that this is all going to cook down and you're going to sweat all this stuff. By sweat, I'm saying is that you're not going to want any kind of color on any of the veg that's in here. Not yet.
Okay.
You're eventually going to get there towards the end of like the cooking of the vegetable process, but at the beginning you just want to sweat it all down. You want to make sure that they're all, when I say like you want them beyond toothsome, so you don't want them to have any bite to them.
Okay.
And then at that point when you start the braising process of your thighs, then they'll really be perfect,
Well
I think.
cooked.
Yeah.
Right. So are you looking to brown them at all? No.
Towards the end.
Just
Towards the end. Right now what we really want is we just want them to sweat down.
Just sweat down. Remind me again, and remind the families again, what type of heat do you have this on?
Medium right now.
Medium.
Medium.
Okay. And then milk still is on low?
It's on low.
It's
The one thing you
fine?
just want to make sure is you just want to check as it's warming up, right? You just want to make sure you give it a stir every once in a while so it doesn't, maybe sometimes because every kind of like range is different.
Yeah.
It could char the bottom of it a little bit and you don't want that. So you just want
Right.
to get in there and
So
check and just make
check
sure you
it
give it a
out.
little whisk every
Yeah.
once in a while. So,
Okay, so check your milk, whisk it. It's on low heat. Just let it keep going. As Chef Mike said, we're sweating our onions and we're sweating the peppers, the bell peppers.
so that oil that you put aside, don't get rid of it because
Okay.
you may end up using it again.
Okay.
Yeah, you may end up using it again.
So remember, he said he had a lot of oil. He drained some into a heat-proof bowl. Don't put it in plastic because it's hot. It will melt through. And he's setting that aside in case he would like to use some more back into the recipe a little bit later. I wanted to do that.
I mean,
I love Spanish
that's
olives.
the beauty of olives.
You can just
Only
pick
half
them and eat
actually
them.
make it into the recipe. Only half the olives, and if there's raisins in anything, only a quarter of the raisins actually make it. So now I just moved this up to high heat. Now that you got oil on all of them, and they're all cooking, you know,
Okay.
and you're watching it, and the whole pan is full, you can raise that heat because you're going to be paying attention to it.
Okay. I
So-
know you're getting ready next to do seasonings, correct?
Yeah, so
Okay.
what's going to happen next is the very final process of your cooking down of the veg is you're going to add your garlic.
Okay.
Garlic is always last because garlic is going to cook and brown and burn the
And
fastest.
it tastes horrible if you overcook
Dreadful.
garlic. Yes.
Absolutely terrible. But as you're doing that, and this is cooking down, you get all your spices together. Cumin, sazon completa, and bay leaf. Bay leaf, these two little leaves, is huge. Anytime you braise, stew, anything, you're making beans, just throw 2 bay leaves in there. It is like,
It makes a difference in
it's
depth
just
and
a
flavor.
magical ingredient that a lot of people are just like, what is that? It took me 20 years for my grandmother to actually tell me. But now I put it in everything. I
Okay.
use it in absolutely everything. We make bay leaf powders. We've made bay leaf ice cream. We've done.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely incredible stuff. So you have your seasoning, have your tomato ready to go.
Okay, you have a can of tomato sauce. You're going to go ahead and open that up. It's the entire can is going to be going into this recipe. It's the 15, 16 ounces that you requested.
All right. You can hear this at the bottom of the pan here getting some color, which is good.
Let's get an overhead shot, Mudson. Let's see what our vegetables look like so the families can take a look.
If you look in here now, you can see that all the oil that we had in there is like previously gone, right?
Right.
And the other thing that's also gone here, which is very important to note, is that you see how there's no color on the bottom of this? There's no color because when you sear this, all your proteins, what it creates is a foundation at the bottom of your pan.
Okay.
And it's called a fond. If you do this and cook your veggies the right way, it's going to pick up all that fond in the vegetables. This is like huge for the actual like end product. That's why you don't want it to be too hot.
Right.
That's why you want to kind of almost sweat them all at the beginning so it picks up all that flavor. But the other thing you notice here too is that the pan is a little bit dry. So that's why I say to keep this stuff.
Save the oil.
Right,
Makes
just
sense.
a little bit. Because you don't want to have to throw it away and then use new stuff. This tastes like chicken anyways. This is what you want. Okay.
Anybody want to show on their iPhones or iPads what your vegetables are looking like right now? We'd love to see what they look like. Oh, I see. Patty.
I'm
good-
showing the chicken.
Okay, gotcha.
I'm not done with the chicken.
You're not done with the chicken. That's okay. Make sure you cook it all the way through, and then go ahead once it's cooked, set it aside, get back to that pot, and put your vegetables in it. Okay, good job, Ruth. Nice job. Patty,
I
nice
still
job.
have my milk though, right here.
Good.
Okay.
The whisk.
Make sure
Very
it's
good.
low, right? Make sure that milk
Yeah,
is
it's
low.
low. It's low. I put it on low.
She's the best. So you can hear it's all cooking. This is like perfect.
Okay,
And you can see that the onions are starting to get soft because they're starting to get translucent.
right.
That right there, that translucent onion, that's what you're going for.
Okay, we can do that.
So now, I'm gonna add my garlic. Sprinkle that in at the top because it'll cook with everything else. Okay. Now you're gonna cook that, and it's basically gonna bloom in there. You could smell garlic like instantly. As soon as it's going, you could smell it.
Right.
It's pretty strong. Just 2 cloves of garlic, you'll smell like the room, your living room will smell like garlic for at least 3 hours. And that's good.
And that's what we want.
Yeah, there's
We
nothing
want our
wrong-
living rooms to smell
There's
like
nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. All right, cool. Let it get a little bit of color now. Now I just cranked it up all the way.
Okay.
I'm gonna look for color now on these vegetables. I want them to finish off and be like that nice kind of caramelized, not charred,
Okay,
which is big.
so once you get the garlic in and stir it together, let it start to bloom, make sure you turn your heat up to high. So we're going high now.
Okay.
I like how cooking does have so much science in it. How you can go from keep it at a low temperature, then move it to a high temperature, depending on what stage you
Yeah.
are in the recipe.
Well, I think that cooking after a while, if you've been cooking for a long time, after long enough, it's got a lot of feel to it. You just feel comfortable with what you're doing and what you're looking for. And that's what I said earlier is that everyone, after a while, they just kind of get their own, they have their own style. And they have the way that they like to do things, as opposed to a recipe says do it X, Y, and Z. It's supposed to take potatoes. Well, I don't have any potatoes, but I have boniato.
Right.
I could try that. And I think that's what I love the most about it is you could be a little cunning with it and you could just think outside the box, forces you to be creative.
Right.
And it gives you an opportunity to like really be who you are instead of
Yeah.
just following a recipe.
Right.
Thinking outside the box is one of my favorite things when it comes to food.
Yeah, being creative.
You can see a little bit of color now. You can see that those green peppers are also
Get
starting
an
to get some color.
overhead matzo one more time so they can see what we're looking for color. Great.
Piece of an onion in there.
Okay.
Cool.
Everybody's out there cooking. I see
All right.
Penya's at the stove cooking.
I love
Yep.
it. So now we're gonna add our seasoning.
Okay.
You're gonna
Now,
add it.
just real quickly, you have all of your seasonings portioned out. So what the recipe calls for, it's already been pre-portioned. So this is the.
This is cumin.
Okay, and about two remember?
Point what? Point.
Half a teaspoon of cumin.
And then sazon completa, which is just a gift to the world also.
And I think that's about 2 tablespoons. It's already been portioned out for you. So we've added both the cumin and,
Sazon completa.
yep, it's
And now
all coming together.
You're going to want to put, now you see, you get it all in the vegetables. It's really delicious. This already looks good. You could already put this on something and it'd be great. You're going to add your bay leaves. Okay. And
I don't think we've cooked with bay leaves before, and you've already talked a little bit about why they're important.
Yeah.
But adding them and then at the end, just taking
Well,
them
yeah, you
out.
can't eat 'em.
You don't want to eat
Can't eat 'em.
the bay leaves. The bay leaves are there for flavor only.
So one thing is, now that all the seasoning is in there, I put all the veg at the bottom of the pan. I let it sit there while it's going at high heat, because you want now the seasonings and the spices to kind of bloom as well. And you want them to kind of caramelize as well with the vegetables. As you can see, it's all kind of getting a little
Wow.
red,
Looking good.
hint of red to it. It's a beautiful thing. All right. Now, tomato.
Okay. Ready to add the tomato sauce? Go ahead and add that in. Ruth is doing it, getting it together.
Gracias.
Yep. Use the whole entire can. Use the whole entire can of tomato sauce. That's right.
Okay.
It's looking good.
And then you're going to add the other one.
Kenya, you're over there working so hard. I see you. I see you, girl. Yes, I see how hard you're working.
And then you're going to add the water.
How much water is that?
So, yeah, so the water, sorry, once you add the water, you're going to add your chicken back into it.
Okay.
So once you add, again, like I said, all chicken thighs are not created equal.
Right.
Once you add these thighs in here, you may notice that you may need a little more water,
Okay.
right? So like this one needs a little more water to it.
And you know that because it's
Because
thick.
you want it to be submerged underneath there. Because you
Okay.
want it to all kind of cook together.
Let's show an overhead shot of what that looks like.
So we're gonna
Okay.
cook, right?
This needs more water. So if your chicken looks like this and it's not completely submerged, go ahead and add water to make sure that that chicken is completely submerged in the sauce.
There you
Am I
go.
saying that right?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
I'm actually going to add about, let me get a little bit more. Probably about another 12 ounces, I would guess.
So you kind of have to do it by your eyesight. Remember, the chicken can be different sizes. Your pot might be a different size.
Yeah.
So just kind of use your eyeball here and add water as necessary until it's completely covered.
Here we go. So, if you could see, just a little bit of that chicken is just popping out of the top.
Okay.
Just like a little bit.
Perfect.
So, basically this part is done. You're going to bring this up to a quick boil. So put it up on high heat. Once this pan starts to boil, you bring it all the way back down, put a top on it, just let it ride.
Okay, and then we add the potatoes later, and
The potatoes are going to add like
right at the end, huh? Or
right
something?
when you drop it down to low, you put it aside, and the potatoes will cook with everything else.
Wow, that
Yeah.
quickly. Okay, great.
So you can see it's starting to bubble a little bit on the sides there.
I hope your kitchen smells as good as our kitchen does right here, right now.
Okay.
Wonderful. Kenya, you'll have to cook this for. Oh, look at yours. Good job, Kenya.
That
Looking
looks
good.
perfect.
You got to cook for your boyfriend. He will love you for this recipe. Yes, you got to cook
Love
for your
that.
boyfriend.
So now that we're getting some bubbles here,
You're bringing it to a boil is what you're looking to do.
you just want to make sure that everything in there is up to temp.
Okay.
So the whole boiling process is just like we just added 12 ounces of water at room temperature. You need them to be at temperature so everything can cook evenly.
Okay.
So bring it up. Once the middle starts to boil a little bit, drop it down, add your potatoes, put it
Right.
aside, let it ride.
And you might want to just take a peek at your milk. Make sure your milk is not scalding. Take a peek at it. Use the whisk. Stir it. Remember that's on low heat, but you need to give it a stir every once in a while. Good job. Getting a thumbs up on the milk. Good job.
Cool. So now, right before we drop it, we'll put these potatoes in here.
So we're going to drain the potatoes from the water. You don't want to add the potato water to it. Is that right, Michael?
Correct.
Or-
So
okay.
just pull them out of the water, drop them in there.
And sometimes you would use the starchy liquid, correct? Or no?
You know, I mean, maybe depends on what you're doing, but I mean, I'm more of a proponent of just letting the potato do its thing. I've used like starchy rice water before.
Have you?
Yeah, to do like finished risottos and stuff like that. But
Right.
actually, like potato water, not so much.
So you're just kind of nestling them in.
Yeah, just the same way as your chickens are like just kind of snug in there. It's gonna be the same thing with the potatoes. All right. Beautiful.
Looking good.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny. I grew up in the Midwest, and stew was always just meat and potatoes and carrots.
Oh, yeah?
It was beef, potatoes, and carrots. Learning that stew can be made with chicken thighs and the different variety with the seasoning you're using, the peppers. It was just something I never grew up with that type of stew. You did.
So I just kind of shook the pan a little bit, the pot, just to get everything kind of like nestled in there. Yeah, we're good to go.
Okay.
So put the top on this thing. Nice. And I'm going to stick it over here in this top one.
Okay. So you're moving it off of the low heat.
Yeah, just to another low
to
heat.
just another burner. Okay.
Yeah, just so we could focus on this thing right here. And wrong one. Yeah. All right. So now milk is already hot and ready to go.
Okay.
That always makes life easy.
Right. So I see it's bubbled. It's
Yeah,
nice
it's
and
ready.
Hot, ready to go.
The key with anything, anytime you make like anything with cornmeal, if you're making grits, if you're making whatever, milk has to be hot. Because if not, it's going to clump up. It's going to be difficult. You know, I learned that the hard way when I was young.
Yeah.
So-
Adding cold milk to
Yeah.
cornmeal or grits.
So this part's pretty simple. You're just going to whisk your milk nonstop and just add cornmeal little by little.
So just don't dump it all in all at once.
Right.
Make sure you take your
This is
time.
how you make sure that it doesn't clump up on you.
Okay, great.
Amazing. So at this point, you see it's starting to thicken up, and now is when you just start to cook it. And you just let it go. This will take a little bit of elbow grease,
Uh-huh.
and just
You're
making sure
constantly stirring it. I noticed that.
constantly stirring. And if you notice how it's starting to slow down, that's because it's starting to thicken up. Now it depends on how thick people want it. You know, growing up, my grandfather would make this almost like harina cake. He would put it in a pan, and then he would basically set it in the pan, and he would put it in the fridge overnight. And then the next day, he would pull it out, cut it, and then he would sear it and put an egg on top of it.
Oh, wow, that sounds delicious. I've known polenta to be much like that.
This is like the Cuban version of polenta.
Polenta.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it is, because it's just, you could do so many things with it, just like, you know, they make polenta fries, polenta sticks, polenta cakes. This is very similar. So now you're nice and thick here, right? You're gonna add your cheese, a little Parmesan. And again, this is also something that if you aren't a Parmesan fan, you could do cheddar. You could do really anything. I've done this with pepper jack cheese just because I love pepper jack cheese, strangely. But Parmesan is also delicious and really good with actually the chicken.
So that's 1 cup of your Parmesan cheese. You will need to measure that out from your container. 1 cup of Parmesan cheese goes into the cornmeal.
Yep. And then you're going to finish with one of the most important things in the world, a little bit of butter.
Butter. Yes. Now you all have a stick of butter. Chef Michael's already got his cut
Cubed up, yeah.
Yeah, so what you want to do is take that stick and go ahead and dice it up into smaller bites, and then go ahead and put it in with the harina.
I have a question.
Shoot.
So I'm doing my vegetables now. We add the seasoning and the basil. No, not basil. The leaves, right?
Yes.
And then with the milk, you're gonna add your harina.
Right. If your milk is warm, you're going to add the
Okay.
harina, but you have to do it nice and slow, right?
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Kenya, your pot is looking good. She's showing you both
I
the
love
far
that.
right. She's showing you that. Looking good. Your harina's looking good.
Once that harina turns into this kind of like more polenta thickness, you're going to want to move from a whisk to a spoon.
Yes, because it gets all clumped up inside
That's
with
right.
that cheese and everything.
That's right. Wooden spoon is good. Regular spoon.
My dog would love to lick that one.
Yeah, I'm sure.
now.
Make sure you get in there and you give it a little bit of love. Get all the corners.
Right. It's really come together.
Yeah.
Like that, my harina.
Eso está perfecto. Yeah.
Tiene que ser soft or hard.
If you want it soft, you could leave it soft. You can add a little bit more water if you want it to be more like como un puré, or you could just keep it that way and have it thick. I personally like it a little bit thicker, but it's really up to you how you like it.
So I can turn off the kitchen.
Yeah.
It's okay?
Hey.
Looking good.
So I'd like to make sure you taste it.
What are you looking for when you taste it?
You need to add salt to it here at the end. Because you want to wait till the end because you added Parmesan cheese.
Right.
Depending on the
That has
Parmesan
some
cheese,
salty
right.
flavor to
It
it.
could be salty if you add, like some parms are a little more dense and salty than others. You know, I'll always wait to the end of everything to season, especially when you're doing stuff like this. All right.
Looking good.
All right.
Not good.
Yes.
But the harina is not is supposed to be a little salty or no salty.
I mean, it shouldn't be salty. It all depends on the Parmesan cheese that you used.
So I have to put more Parmesan cheese.
No, you don't have to if you don't want to.
The recipe calls for 1 cup of Parmesan cheese. You can put more in, as Chef Mike said, but once you get the Parmesan cheese together, then he said to go ahead and taste it.
Right.
And then you can decide if it needs a little salt. And so we've added, as he's tasting, we're adding some salt to it. We're not adding more Parmesan, we're adding a little salt at this point.
I'm going to add a little pepper too. Salt is just going to bring all of it out. You know, it'll bring out the flavor of the Parmesan more. You'll taste buttery, you'll taste the corn. What about there?
How's it doing? Good?
Perfect. Yeah. All right. So now that sucker's done. Come back over here. We're going to check on these things. These things aren't done, but we'll give them a look. That thing we just wanted to be off. What do I keep doing? All right. Take it easy. All right. Those bubbles are good. Everything here looks perfect.
Great. Let's get an overhead shot one more time, Hudson, of what it looks like at this point. Yep. We've got bubbles. We're checking on the chicken. We're turning it around.
Yeah, their chickens are close to being done here. Because what's going to happen is once the chickens are done, you're going to remove them, and then you're just going to cook down that sauce.
Okay. So when you're looking for the doneness of the chicken, again, you're looking for it to almost fall off the bone.
Yeah, you're looking to get the bone and like completely just pull it right out.
Okay.
So, these chicken thighs are pretty big. It could take 20 minutes, could take 25 minutes. It all depends on the actual chicken itself. So, all right. At this point, you can add your olives too.
And you're adding them whole.
Yeah.
With the pimentos
The whole thing.
right in.
That there's a lot of like stuff with this when every Cuban and Cuban American makes these things different. Like sometimes they'll use different olives. Sometimes they'll use, picadillo is the famous one. It's like, should you put raisins in it? Should you not put raisins in it? It all depends. So I think here, yeah, it's starting to look pretty good here.
It's looking good.
Great. All right.
Is everybody doing okay? Any questions? Alessandra, you're watching the chat. Any questions for us?
I actually have a tip for the food that we're making. I'm actually using the water where the potatoes were in because since it has the flavor of the potato and like the starch, I think it would be like a good idea.
I love that. I love that.
Right. We talked a little bit about that earlier, Adriana.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, we did. It's all good. No, it's all good. So we're getting close. What we're doing right now is we're just making sure the chicken thighs are completely cooked. They need another minute or so. As Chef Mike said, he's going to take the chicken thighs out when they're ready, and then we're going to work with the sauce.
Yep. So there's two trains of thought, at least when you go to plate this stuff. It depends. You can make this like one casserole meal, and you can put harina on the bottom, shredded chicken on top, or you could have just the chicken thighs in one thing and
the
serve
harina is separate,
right, separate.
Okay.
It all depends kind of like what you're going for. Me, I'm a big fan of like chicken thigh on top of the actual like harina
Yes.
with all the sauce because I think it's all very good
that's
together.
the way, yeah.
Right, but it all depends. Like, if I was serving 4 people, I'd probably put them separate because maybe somebody doesn't want chicken or maybe they just want sauce. Maybe they don't, I don't know. So it all depends. But everyone does theirs a little bit different.
And why are olives and raisins, as you mentioned, it's a part of the Cuban culture to put
Yeah.
in. What does it do? Why? How did that ever come into being?
Well,
Do you have any idea?
I don't know why. I just know that some people are very against it and some people are very for it. And it's a very people get real into it. If they're not about it, they're
not about it.
very vocal about it. I won't eat that because it has raisins.
But
It's
you
like-
said your grandfather won't eat it with as olives.
No, he hates olives, and I love olives. So every time I cook, he'll be like, "No, it's all right, that's cool."
But I would imagine that the olives add kind of a different flavor to it, a little bit of a briny flavor.
Salty, briny, depends on the olives you use. I mean, those are traditionally the olives that we've always used. I mean, I just think that they add a great texture. It's an interesting texture in the middle of whatever you're eating.
Right.
It also depends. You put olives in like picadillo. You put olives in fricassee. You put olives in braised oxtail. You put olives, or you don't.
Yeah.
But if you don't, I think it's like a texture that's super interesting.
Well, I would imagine raisins are too. And I'm not sure I'd be a huge fan of raisins in it, but
Why is that?
I don't know. It feels to me
I'm just a
like-
raisin fan.
Are you?
Yeah.
It feels to me like raisins are. I just never grew up with them in my recipes. I
Oh.
know they're in Italian recipes. I know they're in a lot of Latin American recipes. Is it making it sweet?
Oh yeah.
Is that what
just
it does?
like a little hint of sweetness.
It plumps up. And
Yeah. I mean, it's really, imagine you're having like, but it's also very traditional, like in my house that I grew up in, that we would have a plate of rice, beans, whatever protein, and half a banana, which is also very interesting and very weird, but there's so many, like at Jugs, that's how we serve our abuela's plate. It's rice, beans, pork, or chicken, or fish, and then it's got half a banana on it. There's so many people that come up to me like, man, that's how I grew up with it too. And then there's some people that are like, I don't get it. And I'm like, I understand you don't get it. It's just that's how I grew up with it.
But you can relate to the people that do get it.
For
and
sure.
they can relate to you, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a group of us that get it. I can't imagine in Wisconsin you got many.
No, bananas and chicken. That's a first. And raisins were like what we had in our lunchbox, and occasionally they went into a bread pudding, but that was about it.
So here we're getting to a place that I can go right in here. Let me
Oh,
see.
I see. You're saying that it.
This one is cooked and ready to go. This guy's a little bit bigger, so he's not ready. This one right here is a little smaller. He's got a little more time. So, you know, it's also one of those things too that if you just, I feel like I grew up specializing in kind of things that my grandparents would cook at home because they would set it, then they would go do stuff, and then they would come back, and then it would be done.
Set it and forget it.
Right. Put on a pot of rice, have something warm, have beans warm, and then they would
Right.
put something in a pot, and then they would go, they would do a bunch of things, and then they would come back and it would be ready. So it's another one of those things too that you could pretty much have everything ready to go, put it all in a pot, set up the table, do things around the house or whatever it is, and then by the time you're done, it should be done also.
Is this a recipe that you would ever do in the oven? I mean,
Absolutely.
okay.
Yeah, again, it's one of those things that if you needed more time, like if you were like, we want to eat in an hour, we want to eat in 80 minutes or whatever it is, you'd set it, put it in the oven at 250 and just let it go.
Let it go.
Yeah. For me, I really do love food that takes a little bit of time. I think it's like, again, it's got that soulful, like heartfelt deliciousness to it that sometimes, like, you know, just cooking things on a grill or
Right.
sauteing things don't really have, which is
Right.
kind of like what I really love. So I want to make sure that this thing is still warm, which it is. Okay.
Okay. Ruth has left the kitchen. I'm sure she's working on setting the table.
I like that. That's good.
I see Adriana's still busy. If you all want to share your pictures, go ahead and yep.
There you go.
We're gonna start seeing some food here.
Look at
We'd
that. That
love
looks
to
good.
oh yes, looking very good.
I would add a little bit of
I
water
don't
to
want
that.
to take it out right now because it's liquidy, so I'm gonna let it evaporate a little.
Yeah.
Yep, you let
And
it cook.
I'm not sure about my Harina. Little thick.
Nice job. Great.
I don't even know how to Harina this one.
Right. Okay,
You
Patty.
you can add a little bit of water to that and whisk it back in, and it'll come right back. Okay.
Add a little water to your arena.
Yeah.
Right.
Add a little bit of water to it. Get like a wooden spoon. Take everything off the sides. Whisk it again, and it'll come right back.
Very good. Okay. Well, we're doing well. I know all of you are following along. If you are a little behind, that's okay. We'd
Behind
rather
is
you
fine.
take your time, make sure the chicken gets cooked. Like we'll do another overhead shot here.
Yep.
It's looking beautiful.
Yeah, they're looking good.
And the potatoes, they're coming along pretty well.
They're going to take their time. It's like the one thing I tell people all the time is like how much longer. It's like
When they're ready, they're
when
ready.
when they're ready, they're ready. The beauty of this is that once the chicken is cooked, you can take the chicken out and you can continue cooking the stew. Like some people like it a little more saucy, some people like it a little more thick to be more like just veg and tomato. It all depends on the household you come from. For me, I like it like right in between. So once those chicken thighs are cooked, I'd probably take this out, put it on high heat again, let it cook down a little bit more. And I like the flavor of like the tomato with the vegetable,
Right.
all the seasoning. When it's a little more stewy, it's also delicious too, but it's more of like, I like it right
Little
in
different
between.
texture.
Yeah.
Right. Good. Very good. Okay, Ruth, we're looking. You're doing well.
Okay, I added water until it was like pasty.
Perfect. That's perfect.
Okay.
Don't take it off the heat though. Don't cook
Oh
it
yeah,
anymore.
it is off the heat. It is off the heat.
Check it for seasoning and it should be ready to go. That looks
Okay.
good.
That's my fricassee.
That looks great. Just cook it till it's all the way, all those potatoes and chicken are cooked all the way through, and that sauce will be delicious.
And this is the harina.
Yeah, if you want it to be that thick, it's perfect.
It's
If you
not
want
soft. It looks soft. No,
that's perfect.
I don't know how to say in English. Consistente.
Sí,
Está muy suave. No me quedó
Pero-
como hard.
pero así está bien.
Okay, good. Thank you.
All right.
Great. I see Krishnell finally opened his camera. We're looking at you. You're doing well over there.
Is
Yes.
this where we just saw pots and we didn't see any people?
Yeah, that was before where the pot
love
was going and
yeah.
there was no one in the kitchen.
I'm glad that there's
we're
people in
back.
the kitchen now. That's good.
That's great. Yeah, everyone's doing so well.
I wish I could see all the other
I
people.
know. Some people just are shy
Yeah, I get it.
about being on camera and.
I'm not a camera person either.
Oh yeah, you're doing great.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah, look at you.
See? I'm doing it.
Patty, you had your phone on before. Are you still around that you can show us what you've got cooking? Let's see if she can hear me.
There's 2 patties.
Yeah, there's 2. I remember.
Acting up, she can't show it.
Oh, okay. She's cooking and she can't show it. Okay. She says, I hear you. Well, that's good. You can hear us. Follow along. Oh, Ruth is already digging in a little bit. How's it taste? Yeah? Really good?
Hey, this sauce is good. Like, I might do it again for pasta this time.
Pasta, huh? That's actually good.
It tastes good. I think it would taste good with pasta.
You know, my abuelo used to make like Cuban mac and cheese, but he would use a sauce like this, and he would put like chorizo in it, and then he would do rigatoni and throw that in there. It's like really, if an Italian saw that, they'd probably have a lot of emotions about it, but it was really delicious. It was really good.
Like you said, you can be creative.
Oh, I mean, people take it too seriously sometimes.
Yeah.
I
Right.
always was on his bedroom, and he wake up for the smell.
Oh, I love that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the kitchen smells wonderful. The whole house smells wonderful, I'm sure. Krishna, we're seeing you. We're watching you. We got our eyes on you. He's on mute.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. He's over in the corner. Very good. Are you tasting it for seasoning, Adriana? Oh, it's hot.
It's going to be hot. All right, yeah.
Chriselle, how are you doing? Doing okay?
Yeah, good.
Good.
Delicious.
Everybody enjoy. Great.
Delicious.
So we have one of our chicken thighs that's ready to go. The rest of them need some.
You are our chef angel.
Oh yeah, I love that. Oh, I'm honored.
You came from heaven and blessed our mouths and
I
stomach
like that.
with the flavor.
You know what?
I love food.
Tell my mom that. She'll love that. So we're gonna build a dish here as we have one of these guys ready to go.
Okay.
Give it another
I'm
minute.
taking this to school for sure.
Do it. Let him know. Let him know that you made that yourself.
Make everybody jealous.
Yeah. So remember, the key here is just to make sure that you cook your stew so those thighs are cooked all the way through. Once they're cooked all the way through, your potatoes are going to be done also. So if you see it starting to get just like a little dry, don't be scared to add a little bit more water to it until they're actually like cooked through. It should just be like another few minutes. We're going to build a plate though. So this is the wrong one. Ooh.
Audrey already dipping in.
They can't stop themselves. They have to start eating.
That's cool. That's half the fun because by the time dinner starts, you're already full. Right?
It's so true.
So make sure you whisk that harina nice and smooth. We're going to fill the bottom of this plate up.
It's nice and thick.
Yeah. And like I said, you can make it, I'm a big proponent of nice, like thick harina. You can make it thinner and make it more like polenta consistency if you want. That's not my bag. I'm going to eat this and I would probably go to bed after. So, sorry. See, that sauce is nice and thick already.
It's still over a high heat.
Yeah. It's probably a little too high. What are you at here?
Now, I know Ruth, she loves her hot sauces. So I'm sure when she gets this plated, she's going to be adding some hot sauce to it.
Hot sauce is great. I mean, that's not something that I had a lot in my house at all, ever, but hot sauce for this would be delicious. Okay. And then, you have a ladle, dude? No? So make sure you get all the vegetables on there. I'll take that bay leaf off after. Yeah. Just don't eat it. See how that sauce is nice and thick already?
It's beautiful.
You're-
Beautiful.
You're gonna want that all the way around. Get a little bit more water. Coordinator. Some of these bigger thighs are gonna take another minute. Yeah, a little more.
So we're just about done today. We're going to go ahead and cook the other chicken thighs a little bit longer, but
Yeah.
what's most important here is you see the presentation. If yours is ready, go ahead and serve it as Chef Mike said, the way you like it, whether you want to put the harina on the bottom with the chicken thighs on top or keep it separate.
So something I do recommend also, if you're doing this in a casserole, in a pot or whatever, once the actual fricassee is done, just leave it in there and leave it in there until the next day. Because what's going to happen is it's going to get very thick, you know, so you're going to have to add some more water to it, bring it back, put it straight back onto the stove, cook it, and just bring it back up that way. Because if you
Okay.
try to move it, you're going to lose all that like delicious, like
Right.
gelatinous,
Right.
tomatoey sauce that you have there.
And to someone who doesn't want to do dishes tonight, it's nice
Right,
to
it's
keep it
also
all
perfect. Yeah, it's
in
also
the same
perfect.
pot.
So,
Absolutely.
and the other thing is, like I was saying, is you could serve it just like that in the actual pot. It's very common in my house. My grandma would just pick up the pot, put something on the table, put it just like that, harina on the side, rice, beans on the side, or you could plate it up how I did here.
It's beautiful. Just beautiful. I can't wait to try it. So let's go ahead. We got an overhead shot.
Yeah.
Munson, we got an overhead shot of what it looks like. We're going to take the bay leaf out, but it
Yeah,
looks
don't
good
eat,
for
don't eat
presentation.
the bay leaf. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's good luck though.
it is good luck if you get the bay leaf in your bowl. Everybody, we're going to go ahead. That's the end of instructions for tonight. You go ahead and cook at your own pace. Enjoy. Oh, yes. Oh, look at nice presentation there, Adriana. Nice. Very good. Love it. Everybody, we love you. Thank you for joining us. Thank you to Chef Mike
Thank you
for
guys.
being here. This has been wonderful. We'll go ahead and put this.
Thank you guys.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Very good. Bye-bye, everybody. Enjoy your dinner. Bye-bye.
Have a good night, everyone.